Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are decoding the hidden languages that make virtually all of our modern electronic devices function. We spend a ton of time talking about the processors inside our gadgets, but a processor rarely works alone. It needs to talk to sensors, memory chips, displays, the whole shebang. So how exactly do they do that?
Okay, let's dive into this. Take a modern drone, for example. Its main brain desperately needs microsecond accurate data from its gyros and GPS just to stay in the air. Without a high-speed way to share that information, that expensive drone is literally just a plastic brick. The components inside are like different departments in a company. If they aren't talking, nothing gets done. But here's the thing. Chips can't just blindly throw voltages at each other and hope for the best. Without a protocol, it's like two people trying to talk when one only speaks English and the other only speaks Japanese. A communication protocol provides that crucial common language. It's a strict set of agreed-upon rules for signal format, timing, and data structure to ensure bits aren't lost in the noise.
So here is our roadmap for today. First, devices need to talk. Second, UART, the simple connection. Third, SPI, the speed daemon. Fourth, I2C, the efficient networker. And finally, Section 5, choosing the right protocol.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, devices need to talk. The very first major hurdle we hit is physical real estate. Back in the day, engineers used parallel communication. They'd send multiple bits simultaneously over many parallel wires. But on tiny, modern circuit boards, space is precious. And that's exactly why modern embedded systems almost exclusively use serial communication. It's sending bits in a single file line. This drastically reduces the wire count and totally simplifies the design.
Moving right along to our first contestant in Section 2, UART, the simple connection.
UART stands for Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. It's actually one of the simplest protocols out there, dating all the way back to 1960s teletype machines, yet it's still incredibly popular today. Now notice that word asynchronous. That means UART doesn't use a ticking, shared clock signal to keep the two devices in rhythm. Instead, both sides just agree in advance on a communication speed, which we call the baud rate. Common speeds are 9600 or 115200. As long as they both know the speed, they're good to go.
Because of this setup, the physical connection is beautifully simple. It typically requires only two communication wires. Device A's transmit, or TX line, connects directly to device B's receive, or RX line, and vice versa. It essentially creates a simple, dedicated two-way street between two chips. So, the crucial point here is that UART is wonderfully easy to implement. It's brilliant for simple tasks like reading a GPS or hooking up a Bluetooth module. But it does have its limits. Without a shared clock, timing errors can start to creep in over long distances. And most importantly, it strictly connects only two devices. You absolutely cannot use UART to wire one brain to 10 different sensors. For that, we need an upgrade.
Which brings us to Section 3, SPI, the speed daemon.
SPI stands for Serial Peripheral Interface. Notice the massive shift in architecture here. SPI introduces a master device, usually your main microcontroller, that totally controls the communication, and one or more slave devices that respond to it. Crucially, the master generates a shared clock signal. Because both devices are perfectly synchronized to the exact same ticking clock, they can push data at incredibly high speeds.
To hit those crazy speeds, SPI typically uses 4 dedicated wires. You have MASI for sending data out from the master, MISO for getting data back in, the serial clock line keeping the beat, and a chip select line to wake up the specific device you want to talk to. Having dedicated lines for sending and receiving allows for full duplex communication. Basically, they can talk and listen at the exact same time.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the major trade-off for all that speed, wire clutter. Yes, SPI is lightning fast. It's the go-to choice for OLED displays or reading SD cards. But for every single new device you add to the system, you have to run a brand new, dedicated chip select wire from the master. On a complex board, that turns into a routing nightmare really fast.
So, how do we fix the wire clutter? Enter Section 4, I2C, the efficient networker.
I2C, or Inter-Integrated Circuit, was explicitly designed to fix SPI's clutter problem. Invented in the 1980s for televisions, it still uses a master-slave architecture, but instead of a dedicated physical wire to wake up each device, I2C gives a unique hexadecimal address to every single sensor, like 0x48 for a temperature sensor, or 0x30C for a display. It's kind of like a teacher calling roll in a classroom. The master just shouts the address down a shared line, and only the matching device responds.
And because of this incredibly clever addressing system, I2C manages a whole network of dozens of devices using only 2 wires, SDA for serial data and SCL for the serial clock. That's it. It is honestly brilliant. You can string sensor after sensor onto these exact same 2 wires.
This minimal wiring makes I2C an absolute favorite for efficient design. We see it heavily used for networks of temperature sensors, accelerometers, things like that. However, that addressing system adds overhead. The master has to send the address before it can actually send the data. Because of this, I2C is generally slower than SPI. Plus, if you put too many devices on just 2 wires, you start running into electrical loading issues.
All right, wrapping things up with Section 5, choosing the right protocol.
And this brilliantly illustrates our 3 contestants side by side. Seeing them like this proves a very common beginner mistake. There is no universally better protocol. It is entirely about picking the right tool for the job. UART is for simple point-to-point stuff, SPI is for blistering speed, and I2C is for dense sensor networks.
Let's bring this right back to our earlier question about the drone. A modern drone doesn't just pick one of these, it uses all 3 simultaneously. It uses SPI for its motion sensors because it needs those readings instantly to stay upright. It relies on I2C to easily network its barometer and temperature sensors, and it uses a classic UART connection to pull data from the GPS module, all 3 working perfectly together in midair.
We see the exact same harmonious mix inside your smartwatch. It uses the 2-wire I2C bus to gather data from the heart rate sensors on your wrist. At the same time, it uses the high-speed SPI protocol to push crisp, full-color graphics to your display. And the engineers who built the watch, they probably used UART to debug the code during development. Modern hardware is like an orchestra, and these protocols are the different sections of the band.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the bigger picture. Raw sensors gather data from the real world, sure. But that data is entirely useless until UART, SPI, or I2C act as the crucial bridge over to the microcontroller. The microcontroller acts as the brain, making decisions. Without these 3 foundational protocols, the entire Internet of Things literally would not exist.
We've covered the hidden languages inside our smaller electronics today, but what happens when you scale this up? Think about a car. When you have a vehicle with hundreds of interconnected, heavy-duty systems, from anti-lock brakes to engine timing, UART, SPI, and I2C just aren't robust enough. So, as our world gets even more connected, what communication protocol drives the incredibly complex, life-or-death systems inside our cars? Well, that is a fascinating question, and one we will definitely be exploring next time as we dive into the CAN bus system. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.